Before we start, I want to say that only 1% of you are subscribed. Please subscribe because when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will post a special video for you. The bustling alien slave market on Krithos V was notorious across the galaxy, a swirling mass of commerce and cruelty hidden by the nebulous moralities of space. Jack Turner, once a soldier in the Earth Coalition forces, now a lone mercenary, navigated through the throngs with practiced ease. His mission was dual: gather intel on a missing human operative and, hopefully, lay groundwork for her extraction. The midday sun of Krithos V cast elongated shadows of the market stalls, the air thick with the scent of exotic spices and the cacophony of 100 languages. Jack adjusted his cloak, the fabric technology shifting to mimic the colors and patterns of the locals, camouflaging him as he moved closer to the central arena where high-value slaves were auctioned. "Are you sure about this, Jack?" whispered a voice in his earpiece. "Never been surer, Miko," Jack responded silently, subvocalizing into the comms device hidden beneath his skin. Miko had been his partner in numerous off-world operations, though today he was coordinating from orbit, piloting their ship in a geosynchronous hold above the market. Jack paused at a stall, pretending to examine a cage of fluttering Akirian songbirds. His eyes, however, remained fixed on a guarded enclosure where a group of alien women were being held. Their delicate, luminous skin and graceful movements contrasted starkly with the harshness of their confinement. "They're not just slaves, Miko. They're scholars," Jack said, his voice a mix of disgust and determination. Heard from the ground chatter. "They come from Elara, a planet of healers and empaths. Explains the tight security." "Got eyes on any handlers?" Jack scanned the area, noting 2 burly guards equipped with shock prods and neural disruptors. Typical muscle, probably hired from the local merc pools. He moved closer, under the pretense of striking a deal on the songbirds. "How's the extraction route?" Jack asked as he handed over a few galactic credits for a bird, freeing it and watching it disappear into the sky, a small act of defiance. "Route's clear. You'll have a 10-minute window after you initiate the blackout." "I'll be ready for a quick liftoff," Miko confirmed. Jack edged towards the enclosure, blending in with a group of alien traders. His translator picked up snippets of their conversation, their dialect a rough, guttural version of Standard Galactic. "Beautiful, aren't they?" "A rare find," one trader remarked, his eyes greedily appraising the Malaran women. "Too delicate for my taste. I prefer something hardier," another scoffed, turning away to inspect more robust laborers. Using their distraction, Jack slipped into the enclosure's shadow. He tapped a small device at his wrist, sending a silent alarm to the cage's locking mechanism, a tech trick he'd picked up on a previous escapade. "Hey, you. What you doing there?" a rough voice barked from behind. Jack turned, facing the guard head-on. "Just looking for my next investment," he replied smoothly, his face an unreadable mask. The guard eyed him suspiciously but nodded, stepping back to his post. Jack breathed a silent sigh of relief, returning his attention to the women. One of them, noticing his gaze, met his eyes. There was no fear there, only a quiet intensity. "Wait for my signal," he whispered through the psychic haze, trusting her empathic abilities to understand his intent. As he backed away, preparing to initiate the blackout, he muttered to Miko, "Get ready. It's about to get dark." Jack maneuvered through the dense crowd, his senses heightened as he absorbed the electric atmosphere of the market. The buzz of negotiations, the clinking of chains, and the subdued murmurs of the enslaved filled the air. His heart beat in sync with the pulsating energy of desperation and commerce that thrived in such dark corners of the galaxy. He found a quieter spot behind a row of tattered tents, where he could observe the main slave pens without drawing attention. The air was cooler here, the stench less overpowering. He tapped his earpiece, reconnecting with Miko. "Found them," Jack whispered, keeping his eyes on the guarded area where the Malaran women were held. "Looks like about a dozen, heavily watched. Any sign of our operative?" Miko's voice crackled slightly, a reminder of the vast distance between them. "Not yet. But these women, they're key to something bigger here. I can feel it." Jack's gaze narrowed as he watched a new figure approach the enclosure, a man unlike the brutish guards. This one carried himself with an air of authority, his attire marked by symbols of high rank. "Looks like a high-ranking slaver." "This might be our lead," Jack murmured, adjusting his cloak to blend further into the shadows. Jack decided to get closer, slipping through the crowd until he was within earshot of the newcomer. He positioned himself near a vendor selling exotic fruits, feigning interest in the merchandise while keeping his ears tuned to the conversation unfolding at the slave pen. Ensure these specimens are prepared for tomorrow's showcase. I want top credits for them, the authoritative man instructed a guard, his voice cold and calculating. Yes, sir, the guard responded, not daring to meet the man's eye. Jack's hand tightened around a piece of fruit, his disgust barely contained. He ditched the fruit and moved closer, under the pretense of tying his shoe, allowing him to catch more of their dialogue. Remember, no marks. They're worth more untouched, the man added, before turning on his heel and walking away. Jack straightened up and made his way back to his secluded spot, tapping his earpiece. Miko, we need to move tonight. Can't wait any longer. Copy that, Miko replied. I'll prep the extraction protocols. Just give the word. Jack scoped the area, planning his next move. He needed a distraction, something to give him and the women a fighting chance to slip away unnoticed. As he pondered his options, a scrawny young vendor approached him, a tray of flickering bioluminescent trinkets in hand. Sir, care to brighten your day with a light from the shore nebula? The vendor offered, hopeful eyes scanning Jack's indifferent facade. Jack looked at the glowing items, a plan forming in his mind. How stable are these lights? He asked, picking up a small, pulsating orb. Very stable, sir. They only burst if mishandled, the vendor explained eagerly. Perfect, Jack muttered under his breath. He purchased several, nodding his thanks as he pocketed them. Wait for my mark, Jack communicated to Miko. When you see the lights, cut the main power. That's when we make our move. As night began to fall, casting elongated shadows across the marketplace, Jack distributed the orbs around strategic points near the slave pens. Each placement was calculated, designed to create maximum confusion and light. With everything set, Jack found a hidden vantage point, the orbs in his hand ready to be activated. He watched the guard shift, their attention occasionally drawn to one of the flickering orbs. This is it, Miko. On my signal, Jack said, his voice a low growl of anticipation. He squeezed the first orb, the bioluminescent light bursting forth in a dazzling display, capturing the attention of everyone nearby. As the market erupted into confused shouts and mesmerized stares, Jack activated the rest, each burst creating chaos. Now, Miko, the lights went out, plunging the market into darkness. The orbs glowed eerily, providing just enough distraction. Jack moved swiftly, heading towards the pens to execute their escape. As the market descended into darkness and confusion, Jack sprinted towards the pens, his heart pounding. The luminescent orbs he had placed flickered, casting ghostly shadows. He reached the enclosure and quickly worked on the lock, using a compact decryptor from his belt. The lock clicked open within seconds, and he swung the gate wide. Follow me if you want to be free, Jack said in a low, urgent tone as he addressed the captive Malaran women. He was met with hesitant but hopeful gazes as they slowly rose, their movements graceful even in the dim chaos. Who are you? One of the women asked, her voice resonating with a melodic quality. A friend, Jack replied, not wasting time on further explanations. We need to move now. As they filed out of the pen, Jack led them through a pre-scouted route, a maze of narrow alleys and less frequented paths that snaked behind the market stalls. He was deeply aware of the sounds of the market behind them, slowly regaining order as the initial shock wore off. Miko, status? Jack whispered into his comms as they moved. Extraction point is clear, but you've got incoming from the north. Looks like they've mobilized security drones, Miko's voice reported, calm but urgent. Understood. Keep your eyes on those drones. I might need a quick diversion, Jack responded, calculating their path forward. The group paused briefly under the cover of a large storage tent, catching their breath. The alien women, while physically unharmed, were clearly shaken by the ordeal. Where are you taking us? Another woman, taller and with an air of authority, asked. Her eyes were fixed on Jack, searching for sincerity. To safety, Jack answered, meeting her gaze firmly. We have a ship waiting. Once we're off this rock, you can choose wherever you want to go. Why are you helping us? She pressed, her skepticism evident. Jack sighed, a part of him empathizing with their mistrust. No one deserves to be chained. Plus, I'm after someone they took, someone from my planet. Helping you might help me get her back. The women exchanged looks, a silent conversation flowing between them. Finally, the one who had first spoken nodded slowly. We will follow. Jack led them onward, weaving through the increasingly complex alleyways. The distant hum of drones grew louder, a threatening reminder of the pursuit. Jack, you've got 2 drones on your tail, about 30 seconds out. Miko's voice crackled in his ear. Time for that diversion, Jack said, his mind racing. On it, Miko replied. Moments later, a loud explosion sounded to their left, far enough to be safe but close enough to be convincing. The drone sounds veered off, drawn towards the explosion. Quick thinking, the tall woman remarked, her earlier skepticism replaced with a hint of respect. Comes with the territory, Jack quipped, leading them into a narrow passage that sloped downwards, away from the main thoroughfares. They emerged onto a small back street that led directly to the outskirts of the market. The spaceport was visible now, a beacon of modern technology contrasting sharply with a primitive market. Just a little further, Jack encouraged, sensing the growing weariness in his group. As they approached the extraction point, Jack scanned the area for any signs of trouble. Miko's ship, a sleek, nondescript vessel, touched down quietly in a deserted loading bay. Everyone aboard, quickly. Jack ushered the women onto the ship, constantly checking their surroundings. Once inside, he finally allowed himself a moment to breathe. The ship's door sealed with a hiss, securing them away from the dangers of Krethos V. Miko appeared from the cockpit, a broad grin spreading across his face. Nice to finally meet your friends, Jack. They're not my friends, Miko. They're my responsibility, Jack corrected him softly, his eyes meeting each of the women's. Let's get out of here. The engines hummed to life, and as the ship lifted off, leaving the chaotic market behind, Jack felt a weight lift off his shoulders. They were safe for now. As the ship steadied its ascent into the dark expanse of space, the cabin filled with a quiet tension. The Malaran women huddled together, their faces a mix of relief and uncertainty. Jack and Miko busied themselves with the controls, ensuring their escape trajectory remained undetected. Coordinates set for the neutral zone, Miko announced, breaking the silence. He glanced over at the women, trying to offer a reassuring smile. You're safe here. Take a moment to relax. Jack nodded in agreement but remained focused on the readouts in front of him. The responsibility weighed heavily on him, knowing their safety depended on his decisions. One of the women, Elara, approached Jack cautiously. Her voice was soft but carried a strength that resonated in the quiet of the ship. Thank you for what you've done. But what happens to us now? Jack turned from the console, his expression softening. We're heading to a space station in the neutral zone. No one will bother you there, and you can choose your next steps in peace. Elara nodded, her eyes reflecting the starlight streaming through the viewport. And you? What will you seek there? I'm looking for a friend, Jack confessed, the lines around his eyes deepening. She was captured, brought somewhere into this sector. Helping you might lead me to her. Miko chimed in, joining the conversation. Jack's been tracking her for months. Every clue, every mission brings us closer. Alara's gaze shifted between the 2 men, sensing the depth of their bond and commitment. Perhaps we can help. We have ways of knowing things, feelings, and thoughts. Our connection to each other is deep. Jack considered her offer, intrigued by the potential of such an ability. That could be useful, he admitted. But only if you're willing. I won't ask you to use your abilities if it's not something you're comfortable with. We will discuss it among ourselves, Elara assured him, turning to rejoin her group. The ship hummed quietly as it slipped through the cosmic currents, the stars streaking past like distant fireflies. Miko returned to his station, leaving Jack to his thoughts. After a moment, Jack spoke up. Miko, set up a communal space for our guests. They need more comfort than this cold cargo bay. Already on it, Miko replied, tapping commands into the terminal. Panels shifted as the ship reconfigured a section into a warmer, more welcoming environment. How about some food and water? They must be starving. Good idea, Jack said. He fetched supplies from the storage, setting them out on a newly formed table. As he arranged the items, the women gathered around, their curiosity piqued by the strange, yet inviting setup. Elara watched as Jack and Miko worked together seamlessly, a silent communication between them that spoke of years of partnership. She approached the table, her fellow Malarans following. Please help yourselves, Jack gestured to the food. It's not much, but it's nutritious. The women hesitated, unaccustomed to such kindness without strings. Elara picked up a piece of fruit, examining it before taking a bite. Her expression softened, and the others followed, slowly beginning to eat. As we nourish our bodies, perhaps we can nourish our spirits too, Alara said, looking at Jack and Miko. Tell us of Earth, of your home. Jack exchanged a glance with Miko, who shrugged slightly. Sitting down at the table, Jack began to share stories of Earth, its vast oceans, towering mountains, and bustling cities. Miko joined in, recounting tales of their adventures across the galaxy, the dangers they'd faced, and the wonders they'd seen. The atmosphere warmed, the cabin filled with laughter, and the sharing of stories, bridging the gap between human and Malaran. As the ship continued its journey through the stars, a bond formed, built on shared experiences and mutual respect. By the time the meal ended, the women seemed transformed, their initial wariness replaced by a cautious optimism. They listened intently, asking questions, and for the first time since their ordeal, they smiled genuinely. We have much to consider, Alara concluded, her voice steady. But perhaps, in helping each other, we find a new path forward. Jack nodded, feeling a rare sense of hope. Together, then, the ship sailed on, a small vessel filled with survivors, each looking towards a future that was suddenly not so bleak. The ship's engines hummed a low, reassuring tune as it docked silently at a secluded outpost on the edge of the Delari system. The area, known for its sparse traffic and minimal oversight, was an ideal temporary hideaway. Jack led the group out of the ship, his eyes constantly scanning the horizon for any unwanted attention. This place isn't much, Jack started, addressing the group as they gathered around him outside the ship, but it's safe and off the grid. Miko chimed in, clapping his hands to get everyone's attention. Let's get you all settled in. There's enough room inside for everyone to have their own space. I'll show you around. The women followed Miko into the small, dome-shaped habitation unit, leaving Jack to secure the perimeter. The outpost was surrounded by rugged terrain, its barren landscape offering little in terms of resources but plenty in concealment. After a thorough check, Jack joined the others inside. The interior was Spartan but functional, with modular living quarters that could be adjusted as needed. Miko was already busy showing the women how to operate the environmental controls and food synthesizers. Feels like a different universe from that market, Alara commented as she watched Miko demonstrate the synthesizer. It might as well be, Jack replied. Here, you're not prisoners or commodities. You're free. Alara smiled, her eyes lingering on Jack for a moment before she turned to help her companions settle in. Over the next few days, Jack taught basic survival skills to the group. They were quick learners, their keen senses and intuitive understanding making the lessons go smoothly. All right, everyone gather around, Jack announced one morning. Today, we're going to work on something a bit different, self-defense. The women exchanged curious glances, but all lined up eagerly. Jack demonstrated a few basic moves, how to break free from a grip, how to use leverage against an opponent. Miko acted as his assistant, occasionally playing the role of an attacker. Like this. One of the women, Tyla, asked as she mimicked Jack's movements. Exactly like that. Well done, Jack encouraged. Remember, it's about using your opponent's strength against them. As the session continued, Jack noticed Alara hanging back, watching intently, but not participating. Alara, want to give it a try? Jack asked, walking over to her. I'm not sure, she hesitated, her voice uncertain. Here, I'll show you slowly. It's important to feel confident in defending yourself, Jack said gently. With Jack's guidance, Alara attempted the move, her actions hesitant at first but gaining confidence with each try. There you go, Jack exclaimed as she executed a perfect defensive stance. You've got a natural talent for this. Alara laughed, a sound of genuine amusement that made Jack smile. The evening brought a change of pace. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the landscape, the group gathered for a communal meal prepared by Miko. So Jack tells me you're all quick studies, Miko said as he served a hearty stew he had managed to concoct from their limited supplies. We have had to be, Alara replied, accepting a bowl. Learning quickly was essential on Melara, especially in the sciences. Speaking of which, Jack interjected, Alara mentioned you all have certain abilities. Care to demonstrate? Alara nodded, setting her bowl aside. She closed her eyes, her brow furrowing in concentration. Slowly, a warm glow emanated from her hands, illuminating the dimly lit room in a soft, amber light. It's a healing light, Alara explained. We can sense pain and soothe it. It's how we heal. Miko whistled softly. That's incredible. Jack watched, fascinated. Can you teach us how to do that? It's not something that can be taught to just anyone, Alara said, her voice gentle. but we can certainly try to share some of our knowledge. As the night deepened, they discussed plans and possibilities. The outpost a bubble of peace in the vastness of space. Jack and Miko listened intently as the women shared stories of Melara, their culture rich and complex. That night, as Jack lay in his quarters, the thoughts of the day swirling in his mind, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The mission had changed from a simple rescue to something greater, a bridge between worlds that had never been intended, but was now undeniably real. The outpost became a bustling hub of activity and learning in the following days. Jack and Miko worked closely with the Malaran women, each day bringing new insights and shared knowledge. Alara, in particular, showed an interest in the technology aboard the ship, while Jack and Miko were keen to learn more about Malaran healing techniques. One morning, as the outpost bathed in the soft light of Delari's twin suns, Jack and Alara stood by a console in the ship's cockpit, discussing the navigation systems. "So this is how we chart courses through the sectors," Jack explained, pointing to the holographic star map that floated above the console. "Each route is calculated to avoid known dangers like pirate sectors or unstable stars." Alara, absorbed in the technology, nodded thoughtfully. "Malara's technology was never this advanced in navigation. Our focus was always on healing and agriculture. There's a lot we can learn from each other," Jack said, smiling. "Your healing abilities, for instance, are something that could benefit everyone in the galaxy." Alara returned a smile, her gaze lingering on the star map. "Perhaps this is the beginning of a new chapter for us, a chance to share our knowledge on a galactic scale." The sound of footsteps interrupted their discussion as Miko entered the cockpit, a digital tablet in hand. "Morning, you two. I've been crunching some numbers, and it looks like we have enough supplies for a few weeks. But we'll need to make a supply run soon." Jack nodded, turning to the console to begin planning a route to the nearest trade station. "We should consider trading some of our tech for supplies. Maybe even some of Malara's natural remedies could fetch a good price." "That's a good idea," Alara agreed. "Many of our natural remedies are rare outside of Melara. They could be very valuable." As they discussed logistics, the other women joined them, each bringing reports of their own tasks and learnings. Tyla, who had taken an interest in engineering under Miko's tutelage, shared updates on the maintenance of the ship's life support systems. "I've checked all the filters and recalibrated the air circulation pumps. Everything is running smoothly," Tyla reported, her tone proud and confident. "Well done, Tyla," Miko complimented, giving her a friendly pat on the back. "You're a natural at this." The group's camaraderie had grown, their initial wariness replaced by a shared sense of purpose and friendship. They gathered around the small dining area, discussing their plans over a meal of synthesized protein and fresh vegetables from the outpost hydroponic garden. "Once we're resupplied, what's the next move?" one of the women, Sarah, asked. She had become the unofficial spokesperson for the group, her diplomatic skills shining through in their daily meetings. "We need to think about long-term goals," Jack suggested. "Not just survival, but how we can help you reintegrate into society, or even return to Melara if that's what you decide. There's also the matter of spreading the word about what happened to us," Alara added. "We need to ensure that what happened on Krethos V doesn't happen to anyone else." The discussion turned serious as they considered their options. Rescue missions, advocacy for enslaved peoples, and diplomatic efforts to prevent future incidents were all on the table. "We have a unique opportunity here," Jack said, looking around at the group. "Together, we have the skills and knowledge to make a real difference." Miko nodded in agreement. "And we have this ship, a means to reach out and connect with others who can help." The meeting ended on a note of cautious optimism. They had a long road ahead, but for the first time since their escape, the women of Melara felt they had not just hope for a future, but a plan to actively shape it. That night, as the stars shone brightly above the remote outpost, the small group felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were no longer just survivors, but pioneers on a new frontier, ready to face whatever challenges came their way. The neutral space station loomed ahead, a massive structure orbiting a deserted planet at the edge of a bustling trade route. The station was a crossroads for travelers and traders from all corners of the galaxy. Jack piloted the ship towards the docking bay, a plan forming in his mind. "All right, here's the station. Once we dock, we need to blend in. Remember, not everyone here will be friendly," Jack instructed as he expertly maneuvered the ship into its designated slot. Miko nodded, looking over to the Malaran women. "We'll stick together." Safety in numbers. The ship's doors opened with a soft hiss, and the group disembarked into the bustling environment of the space station. Jack led the way, his eyes scanning the crowd for any potential threats or opportunities. Miko, take Tyla and check out the market. See what you can find in terms of supplies and maybe some information on other Malaran communities that might be out here, Jack directed. Got it, boss. Come on, Tyla, Miko responded, leading her into the crowd. Jack turned to Alara and the rest of the women. Let's find the administrative office. We need to register your presence here and ensure you're under the protection of the station's laws. As they walked through the corridors of the station, the diversity of the galaxy was on full display. Species from every sector mingled, some bartering, others simply passing through. Alara, walking beside Jack, observed everything with keen interest. This place, it's overwhelming but fascinating. It's a lot to take in at first, but you'll get used to it, Jack replied, giving her a reassuring smile. Reaching the administrative office, they were greeted by an android secretary. How can I assist you today? The android inquired with a pleasant synthetic voice. We'd like to ensure these ladies are protected under your asylum laws. They've escaped from a slave market on Krethos V, Jack explained, his voice firm. Understood. Please fill out these forms and submit them here. I will process them immediately, the android responded, handing out digital tablets to Jack and the women. While they filled out the forms, Jack kept an eye on the office door, watching the beings that came and went. His mind was always on alert, a habit forged from years in uncertain situations. Once the paperwork was submitted, the android returned with a confirmation. All is in order. You are now under the protection of the Galactic Unity Treaty. No harm will come to you here. Thank you, Alara said, her relief evident. She turned to Jack. What now? Now we wait for Miko and Tyla to return and then plan our next steps. Whether it's finding a way to get you back home or something else, Jack responded, his tone contemplative. Back in the market, Miko and Tyla were successful in gathering supplies and even picked up rumors of a Malaran community living in another sector of the galaxy. Tyla, you did great today, Miko complimented as they carried their supplies back to the rendezvous point. I learned from the best, Tyla joked, her confidence boosted by the day's successes. When they all regrouped, the atmosphere was one of cautious celebration. The immediate threats were behind him, and for the first time in a long while, the future seemed filled with possibilities. Let's get these supplies back to the ship and discuss everything over a meal. We've got a lot to plan, Jack said, leading the group back to their temporary home. As they settled in for the evening, the conversation flowed from practical plans for the future to shared stories of their pasts. Laughter and earnest discussion filled the ship, binding the group closer together. That night, as Jack lay in his bunk, the weight of leadership and the day's events weighed on him. But there was also a sense of accomplishment. He had not only saved lives, but had given a group of remarkable women a chance at a new beginning. The journey was far from over, but for now, they were safe, they were free, and they had each other. The soft hum of the ship's engines filled the air as it orbited the space station, now a familiar backdrop to their daily lives. Inside, the group gathered around the central console, maps and data screens illuminating their determined faces. All right, everyone, Jack began, addressing the circle that included Alara and her fellow Malaran women along with Miko. We've secured your safety, and with the supplies Miko and Tyla found, we're set for the near future. Now, we need to think about long-term plans. Miko nodded, stepping forward with a digital pad in his hand. Based on the intel I gathered, there's a sector not too far from here where a Malaran community thrives. It might be a good place for you to start anew, or at least find some guidance. Alara exchanged looks with the other women, their expressions a mix of hope and anxiety. It sounds like a promising option, but we want to make sure we're not running from one dependency to another. We want to stand on our own, she voiced her concerns, which resonated with the group. That's a fair point, Jack replied, understanding their need for autonomy. What if we scout the location first? Miko and I can go, assess the situation, and ensure it's safe and what you're looking for. I'd like to join you, Alara said quickly. If this is to be our home, I need to see it myself. Jack considered for a moment, then nodded. It's settled then. We'll prepare for a short trip to this community. Miko, make the arrangements. As preparations for the scouting mission went underway, Tyla and the other women took over the daily operations of the ship. They were quick learners, each taking to their tasks with a vigor that spoke of their desire to contribute and be self-sufficient. The day of the trip, Jack, Alara, and Miko boarded a smaller vessel docked with their ship. The journey was quiet, each lost in their own thoughts about what they might find. Upon arrival, they were greeted by representatives of the Malaran community. The settlement was vibrant, a stark contrast to their previous conditions, with structures that harmoniously blended technology and nature. "We welcome you," said one of the leaders, a tall Malaran woman with eyes that sparkled like the stars. "We've heard of your journey. It's not every day we meet others who have faced such trials." Alara stepped forward, her posture confident. "We seek a place among you, not as dependents, but as contributors. We have skills, knowledge, and the will to use them." The leaders nodded, impressed by her resolve. They toured the settlement, showing the visitors their advances in agriculture that used minimal resources for maximum yield, their educational systems, and their cultural practices. As the tour concluded, Jack, Alara, and Miko gathered to discuss their impressions. "It's more than I hoped for," Alara admitted, a slight smile crossing her lips. "But I need to discuss it with the others before we decide." "Of course," Jack agreed. "Take your time. This is your decision to make." Returning to the ship, Alara shared everything with her companions. The discussions lasted well into the night, every woman having her say, every concern addressed thoughtfully. In the end, they decided to accept the community's offer to join them, not just as residents but as partners in their ongoing projects and endeavors. As they prepared to move to the settlement, Jack watched the Malaran women with a sense of pride. They had come so far, and now they were about to begin a new chapter on their own terms. "Jack," Alara approached him as the ship was being unloaded. "We owe you so much. You freed us, not just from our captors, but from our own fears." Jack shook his head modestly. "You freed yourselves. I just opened the door." Alara smiled, extending her hand, which Jack took. "Then let's just say, we opened it together." As the sun set over the new home of the Malaran women, Jack felt a chapter closing and another beginning, not just for Alara and her people, but for himself and Miko. They had started as rescuers, but they ended as friends, their lives forever intertwined with the fate of those they had helped. In the quiet of the departing ship, Miko clapped Jack on the shoulder. "What's next for us, Captain?" Jack looked back at the thriving community, then to the stars beyond. "Let's find out," he said, a new journey just on the horizon.